The Book of Hours of Catherine of Cleves was one of the most famous medieval manuscripts of the 15th century, and on its folio 107 lies one of the most striking images humanity has ever seen. On the right side of this page, we see a gigantic infernal mouth where 5 naked souls suffer the torment of being burned in hell. Their bare bodies twist in agony, their faces scream as they burn inside its throat, and right beside them, an angel appears to be watching, guiding the souls that can still be saved. 500 years ago, the word Hellmouth was used to describe the entrance to hell. Artists of that time adopted this concept and repeated it everywhere. They painted enormous jaws devouring souls on church facades, carved in stone, or hidden inside small prayer manuscripts like this one. For centuries, these images taught Europe what hell meant. Their purpose was to instill fear, a fear that quite literally educated and traumatized millions of people. The question you're probably asking yourself is, who came up with this? Where does this oddly specific idea of hell as a mouth even come from? The truth is, no one really knows who first imagined hell as a mouth, but if we go far enough back, the traces begin to appear. In 9th century England, Christian monks lived side by side with Vikings, who didn't just raid villages, but also brought their stories. And among those stories was one that was particularly disturbing. It told that at the end of the world, a creature named Fenrir, a gigantic wolf, would break his chains and devour the gods. He was said to be so enormous that his lower jaw touched the earth while the upper one reached the sky, a beast that would literally swallow the world. In a small northern town, there still stands a stone carved more than 1,000 years ago, called the Gosforth Cross. It's a Christian monument, but carved by Viking hands. And in one of its scenes, the god Vidar is shown prying open the jaws of Fenrir. What's fascinating is that centuries later, Christian artists would depict Christ doing exactly the same, opening the mouth of hell to free the righteous. The same image, a different meaning. From there, the symbol began to evolve. Anglo-Saxon chroniclers started describing the devil as a dragon devouring sinners, much like another Norse creature called Nidhöggr, a serpent that, in Scandinavian myth, gnaws on the corpses of the wicked at the edge of hell, and Christianity, with its uncanny ability to translate fears, adopted that image. In the book of Isaiah, for example, it is said that Sheol, the place of the dead, opens its mouth wide to swallow the wicked. Then there's Leviathan, the sea monster that symbolizes evil and chaos, a kind of dragon of the abyss. And Gehenna, mentioned in the Gospels, was an actual valley outside Jerusalem where trash and corpses were burned, the perfect model for eternal fire. So medieval artists didn't really have to invent anything new, they just connected the dots. If hell was a place of fire, and also a beast that devoured, then its entrance had to be its mouth. Simple as that, and absolutely terrifying. The first known image of a Christian artist using this idea as inspiration can be found in the Book of Hours of Catherine of Cleves. This manuscript was commissioned around 1440 by the Dutch noblewoman Isabel of Egmont for her daughter Catherine. It wasn't painted by a single recognized hand, but rather by a workshop of Brabant artists who specialized in luxury miniatures. This book became legendary in its time because it was literally one of the most elaborate ever created, with gold details, vivid colors, ornate margins, and brushwork so delicate that a misplaced finger could ruin it. In its time, it served as a private devotional book, used for prayer, meditation, and intercession for the dead. The Hellmouth scene appears in the section of prayers for the deceased, precisely on page 107, at the very moment when the reader prepares to face death and salvation. The page begins with that infernal mouth I described earlier, where 5 souls suffer eternal punishment, while an angel beside them seems to guide them towards salvation. The purpose of including an image like this in a book used for private devotion was to serve as a warning every time the reader reached that page, a reminder that this is the fate awaiting you if you stray from the right path. The image was meant to stay with you, to haunt you, to leave the study, the prayer room, or the church still thinking about those jaws. Fear, after all, is a powerful impulse. It moves you, disciplines you, and in an era when salvation was negotiated through fasting, confession, and good deeds, showing hell this way was a direct way to shape people's conscience. Over the years, the mouths of hell moved from the pages of prayer books to the grand paintings of their time. The fear that once fit within a miniature now covered entire walls. The artists of Northern Europe, especially in the Netherlands, took that visual language and pushed it to its most extreme form. Only a few decades after the Book of Hours of Catherine of Cleves in the workshop of Hieronymus Bosch, that tradition was reborn. Bosch's followers turned the Hellmouth into a portal to the underworld, blending religion, horror, and a touch of grotesque humor. In the works from his workshop, such as the Last Judgment triptych or the Garden of Earthly Delights, we no longer see a simple mouth devouring souls. We see entire cities burning inside it. It's the very same concept that was born from Viking mythology centuries earlier, but now taken to the edge of delirium. The Hellmouth stopped being a spiritual warning and became a visual experience of chaos. And what's most fascinating is that this iconography still lives with us. Symbolist artists of the 20th century, like Alfred Cuban, continued exploring hell through that same compositional idea. In his 1900 work, Into the Unknown, painted 500 years after the Book of Hours of Catherine of Cleves, the same message remains. Here, a vast crowd slowly advances toward a gigantic mouth in the distance. There are no demons pushing, no fire, no screams like in the Middle Ages, only a resigned human tide walking toward its fate. If you think about it, it's the same medieval concept. The souls are entering hell, but this time it has nothing to do with religion. The punishment doesn't come from God, it comes from ourselves. Cuban understood something the medieval artist also knew. The true power of the Hellmouth isn't in its teeth, it's in what it represents. That universal feeling that there is a place or a consequence from which no one can escape. Maybe that's why we can say, without exaggeration, that this medieval image traumatized millions of people, and in some way still does. Now I want to ask you something. Do you think these images had a positive influence on us as a society? In a way, thanks to paintings like these, medieval society refrained from many behaviors that today we would consider unthinkable. Fear worked as a kind of moral compass, and it was quite effective, although it's also possible that the price of that fear was far too high. I'd love to read your thoughts down below in the comments. And if one of the artworks you saw today moved you as much as it did me, you can have it in your own collection. On our website, you'll find reproductions of the most fascinating paintings in history with free worldwide shipping. I'll leave the link in the description. Thank you for your support and see you in the next video.